Good morning students, this is lecture 32 under module 11. In today's lecture, we will discuss about gas separation. As you know, one of the most important applications of membrane technology is gas separation, and we will discuss about it. We will try to understand the principles and different types of membranes and as well as modules that is being used for gas separation, and what is the transport mechanism for gas separation, the factors affecting the gas separation, as well as 3 or 4 different applications. So, let us begin. As you know, over the past few decades, gas separation using polymeric membranes have drawn a great deal of interest from researchers due to its various advantages. The advantages include inherent simplicity, ease of control, compact modular nature, lower capital cost, higher energy efficiency, as well as high selectivity. Now, the stream to be separated is fed to the membrane device at an elevated pressure, where it passes across one side of the membrane, the usual membrane separation principle. The opposite side of the membrane is held at a lower pressure. The pressure difference across the membrane provides the driving force for the diffusion of gas across the membrane, little more similar to that of what we discussed during pervaporation. So, separation is achieved because of the differences in the relative transport rates of the feed components. Components that diffuse more rapidly become enriched in the low pressure permeate stream, while the slower components are concentrated in the retentate or residue stream. So, every component has a particular diffusivity. So, if diffusivity is very high, then and apart from their size and other factors, then they will pass through the membrane and will be collected at the permeate side. If the diffusivity is very low along with their molecular weight, so they will be mostly retained on the surface of the membrane. So, the degree to which the components are separated is governed by the ability of the membrane to discriminate between those components as well as by the relative driving force of each component. So, you can see this is the schematic, basically feed gas at P equals to Pf, Pf is the feed gas pressure. So, residue gas what we are getting out equals to Pr equals to Pf, and permeate gas is Pp less than Pf. Okay. So, this is one of the major thing is that the pressure of the permeate gas should be lower than that of the feed gas. So, industrial gas separation membranes are generally categorized as cellulosic and non-cellulosic. Amorphous or nanocrystalline polymeric membranes used for gas separation are either in glassy or in rubbery state. Now, when the temperature is above the glass transition temperature, that is Tg, polymer is in rubbery state. Now, if you recall, we have already discussed what is glass transition temperature, what is its importance, and how the polymers behaves when you actually heat it, and during our discussion of the membrane materials. So, in rubbery state, polymers tend to be soft and more flexible. When the temperature is lower than glass transition temperature of the polymer is at glassy state. So, in the glassy state, polymers are usually they are rigid and often brittle. So, there is a low level of molecular movement, and the rate of diffusion is very small. So, properties that change around the glass transition temperature include the density, specific heat, dielectric coefficient, rates of gas liquid diffusion through the polymer, and conductivity or charge mobility. Membrane for gas separation. So, the gas separation capacity of the polymer depends on its free volume and its physical affinity for the gas. The mobility of the solved molecules depend on the free volume of the polymer and on the degree of rigidity of the chains. Ideal gas separation membranes are two types, either they are selective membranes or they are permeable membranes. So, selective membranes produces high purity gas, and permeable membranes provide larger flux. So, there is a trade off between this high purity of the gas yield as well as the high permeability. So, you need to balance between these two, right. So, you need to choose a membrane in such a that, and basically what you are looking for, are you looking for extremely high permeability or you are looking for a very high purity product. So, depending on that you need to choose your membrane. So, you can either go for a selective membrane or a permeable membrane. So, both are inversely related. So, as selectivity increases, flux decreases, and permeability and selectivity are somewhat antinomic properties, especially when the selectivity of a diffusional type, when the polymer acts as a molecular sieve. So, when the diffusional transport is happening, so the polymer material itself is behaving just like a molecular sieve. So, some sort of sieving mechanism is happening. So, the majority of industrial membrane processes for gas separation utilize glassy polymeric membranes because of their high selectivity and good mechanical properties. So, mostly they are glassy polymeric materials. Materials such as like polyimides, which are used for the carbon dioxide methane separation, one of the most important application of the gas separation, Polysulfones are used for hydrogen separation, then cellulose acetate membranes are used for the removal of carbon dioxide and water from natural gas. So, there are a lot many applications or this one examples of such membranes for different gas phase applications. So, in the area of rubbery polymers, polyurethanes possesses high permeability and are being applied for oxygen nitrogen separation. So, let us now understand the membrane materials. So, ceramic and zeolite membranes. Ceramic and zeolite membranes have begun to be used for a few commercial applications just for a few years back. So, these membranes are all multi-layer composite structures formed by coating a thin selective ceramic or zeolite layer into the microporous support layer. So, this we have already discussed many a times what is ceramic membrane, how they are being prepared, and ceramic membranes are prepared by the sol-gel technique. Zeolite membranes are prepared by direct crystallization, in which the thin zeolite layer is crystallized at high pressure and temperature directly onto the microporous support. So, these are some of the pictures of the ceramic hollow fiber membranes. So, composite membrane with a very thin palladium layer. So, thin layer of palladium on tantalum or vanadium support film and porous substrate such as ceramic or stainless steel is being used for many applications of gas separation. Tantalum and vanadium are quite permeable to hydrogen. So, possibility of getting more hydrogen, that is why they are being used. So, these membranes are quite permeable at high temperature, reduced materials cost and improved mechanical strength because of the use of stainless steel and other things. So, metallic membranes, again only palladium membranes. So, dense metallic membranes are typified by palladium or silver membranes. Palladium membranes are for hydrogen permeation and silver membranes for oxygen permeation, because their permeability inside these membrane materials is very high. So, usually they are preferred. They are prepared by cold rolling, then electrolysis plating, then we have electroplating, then CVD, which is called chemical vapor decomposition, then magnetron sputtering, etc. There are various methods to prepare it. They are highly selective. Their mechanical and thermal stability is good, and we can use it for long term. So, the life is actually more, and applications in membrane reactors and gas separations. So, hydrogen permeation through metal membrane is shown below. So, you can see how it is happening actually. So, the first, the hydrogen molecules. So, hydrogen molecules will absorb on the membrane surface, where it dissociates into hydrogen atoms, right. So, this is the palladium based membrane, you can see how it is happening, okay. And here the hydrogen is coming, it is first initially getting sorbed on the surface of the membrane, right, this part. So, in the two it is getting dissociated. So, once it dissociates, then it will start diffusing through the membrane. Then once it comes to this almost tail end of the membrane, so they are again getting reassociated, okay. Then the desorption is happening here. So, this is how it happens: sorption, desorption, dissociation, diffusion, reassociation and desorption, the 5 different steps. So, each individual hydrogen atom loses its electron to the metal lattice and diffuses through the lattice as an ion. So, this you need to take care of. Hydrogen as itself is not getting diffuses, it is getting separated into ions, and then ions are getting, hydrogen ions are getting diffused, or you can say to permeated through the membrane or the palladium lattice, you can say. So, hydrogen atoms emerging at the permeate side of the membrane are reassociated to form hydrogen molecules, then dissolve and complete permeation process. This is how hydrogen separation happens using a palladium based membrane. So, palladium membranes show high solubility and permeability for hydrogen. In some earlier works, palladium membranes showed 99.9% pure hydrogen separation using a 25 micron thick membrane. So, you can see extremely high pure hydrogen can be obtained using palladium membranes. So, advantage is of course hydrogen selectivity and long term use. Disadvantage is expensive, 100 times more expensive than polymeric membranes, and they are brittle. And palladium and silver alloy is used to reduce the cost as well as the roughness and increase the roughness. Palladium silver alloys show low permeability compared to only palladium. To avoid all these problems, composite metallic membranes are prepared. So, let us now talk about polymer membranes. So, most gas separation processes require that selective membrane layer be extremely thin to achieve economic flux. So, this is the selective layer, and this is the layer which is giving its suppose some sort of composite structure. So, composite membranes with glassy thin selective layers with high flux are good. The microporous support layer can be tough glassy material to provide strength. So, this basically this layer. Okay. So, it is a 2 layer composite membrane formed by coating a thin layer of selective membrane or selective polymer or microporous support that provides mechanical strength. Now, you can go for a 3 layer also, it is possible, we have discussed earlier how it happens, right. So, here in this case it is shown a 2 layer or a bilayer composite membrane. So, in gas separation process, hollow fiber and spiral wood systems are basically used. We are talking about modules now. So, cellulosic membranes have either spiral wood or hollow fiber configurations, it suits best to them, and while most of the non-cellulosic membranes have hollow fiber configurations. Now, hollow fiber, you know, hollow fiber has the advantage of very large surface to volume ratio, right. So, that is why hollow fibers is being commercially adapted more. So, the hollow fibers can have an ID or internal diameter up to 200 microns. The larger the ID, the lower the pressure drop inside the tubes, but the lower is the area to volume ratio. So, if you have a high area to volume ratio in a small area, we can have more surface, right, generated for air separation or mass transfer. So, the wall thickness can vary from 250 to 25 to 250 microns depending upon the pressure which must be withstood. So, the skin is from 0.1 to 1 micron thick and is formed on the outside of the hollow fiber. The hollow fiber systems are currently being used commercially for the recovery of hydrogen or carbon dioxide and for the separation of nitrogen from air. Spiral wound configuration on the other hand has the advantage of a lower pressure drop in the direction of flow, and the technology to build the system is less complex, but volume ratio is lower. So, let us now understand the mechanism of gas transport. So, 3 general transport mechanisms are commonly used to describe gas separations using membranes. They are Nordstein diffusion, molecular sieving and solution diffusion mechanism. So, briefly we have discussed this. Solution diffusion we have discussed in detail. So, let us now go ahead and discuss again about Nordstein diffusion little. So, in Nordstein diffusion the separation is achieved by mean free paths of the molecules. So, if the mean free path of the molecules are larger relative to the pore radius, then Nordstein diffusion happens. So, a mean free path is something we can define the mean free path as the distance between the 2 successive collisions of the molecules. Now, this collision of what? So, collision of the molecules itself among themselves, otherwise here in the case collision of the walls also, in which they are travelling basically. So, if a gas molecule A at a partial pressure PA1 at the entrance to the capillary is diffusing through the capillary having a diameter of d. So, the total pressure P is constant throughout, the mean free path lambda is large compared to the diameter d. So, once lambda is greater than d, then Nordstein diffusion will come into picture. So, as a result the molecule collides with the wall and molecule wall collisions are important. This is called Nordstein diffusion. So, the separation factor from Nordstein diffusion is based on the inverse square root of the molecular weights, assuming that gas mixture consists of only 2 types of molecules. So, the process is limited to systems with large values for the molecular weight ratio, such is found in hydrogen separation. Due to their low selectivities, Nordstein diffusion membranes are not commercially attractive. Okay. Let us say this is something like this is your D and this is a molecule which comes and travels. So, it will collide something like this, okay, the molecules. Okay. So, this is basically the mean free path, we can call it the lambda. Okay. If the lambda is greater than d, then the Nordstein diffusion will be prevalent. However, due to the low selectivities, Nordstein diffusions are not commercially being given importance. So, molecular sieving. So, the molecular sieving mechanism describes the ideal condition for the separation of vapor compounds of different molecular sizes through a porous membrane. Smaller molecules have the highest diffusion rates. This process can happen only with sufficient driving force. So, in other words, upstream partial pressure of the faster gas should be higher than the downstream partial pressure, otherwise the molecular diffusion will not happen, molecular sieving will not happen. The main limitation is that condensable gases may cause fouling and alter the structure of the membrane. So, this is a disadvantages. So, when we are dealing with a condensable gas, then we need to be very careful and choose the polymer or the material of the membrane in such a way that to avoid the fouling, otherwise swelling of the membrane. So, therefore, it is only feasible commercially in robust systems such as those that uses ultra microporous carbon or hollow fiber gas membranes. Now, see solution diffusion we have discussed in detail along with the equations and all, just quickly we will go through it. So, in gas permeation, the permeating gas is made to pass through the membrane by applying a pressure difference on either side of the membrane. Now, this is true for any mechanism. Now, this pressure difference causes a difference in dissolved gas concentration between the two faces of the membrane, and hence a diffusional gas flows through the membrane. Now, solution diffusion is based on the solubility and mobility factors. So, it can be a 3-stage process. So, first adsorption and dissolution of gas at the polymeric membrane's interface, okay. Then diffusion of the gas in and through the bulk of polymer, then desorption into the external space. So, these are the 3 necessary steps that happens during the solution diffusion. So, permeation is used to describe the overall mass transport process, and diffusion refers only to the movement of gas molecules inside the polymeric membrane. So, the model assumes that pressure within a membrane is uniform, and the chemical potential gradient across the membrane is expressed only as a concentration gradient. In 1988, Koros gave a thorough review on polymeric membranes for solution diffusion based permeation separations. Anybody interested may refer this. So, Koros and Fleming again in 1993 suggested that solution diffusion is achieved via penetrant species undergoing random jumps in the polymer matrix due to a concentration difference between membrane upstream and downstream, resulting in a diffusion flux travelling downstream. So, varying the chemical nature of the polymer allows control of relative extent of solution and diffusion of different gases through the polymer matrix. Now, the upstream gas, which is a pressure of P1, comes in contact with the membrane interface with a driving force, that is chemical potential, concentration gradient, whatever it is. Okay. The permeate gas forms a concentration profile across the membrane, okay, with respect to the membrane thickness Lm. Okay. So, the normalized flux is gas flow rate divided by the membrane surface area, and it is denoted by Na. Na is the molar flux rate, and separation of the gas mixture is achieved when one of the components interacts more strongly with the membrane material, in other words diffuses faster through the membrane. So, among the 3 solution diffusion stages, the diffusion step is the slowest. So, that is the rate determining step. So, whatever step is slowest, okay, that will be usually the rate determining step. So, in general relationship can be expressed, the flux we can write minus d dc by dx, where d is the diffusion coefficient. So, when the solubility of a penetrant gas in a polymer is sufficiently low, the concentration of the penetrant is proportional to the vapor pressure of the penetrant in polymer. So, this relationship is expressed by Henry's law, which is C is given by this C equals to S into P. S is the solubility coefficient, that is Henry's law constant for the particular gas polymer pair, and P is the partial pressure of A in gas, and C is the equilibrium solubility of gas in the polymer. At steady state, the permeation of a pure gas through the membrane thickness Lm is characterized by a permeability coefficient Pa, generally written as Pa equals to Na by P1 minus P2 by Lm, okay, which is we can write Na by delta P by Lm. So, here Na is normalized flux, and P1, P2 are the upstream and downstream pressures, and delta P is P1 minus P2. Okay. So, the permeability of dense membrane is low because of absence of pores. The permeance of component A can be high if Lm is very small. So, this we have I told you many times whenever we have come across such discussion on membrane thickness, the thickness layer which is doing the separation or permeation must be thin so as to avoid resistance. Okay. So, even though the permeability is low, so thickness of the perm selective layer is typically in the range of 0.1 to 10 micron for gas separation. Porous support can be around 100 microns or even more than that, it is fine. Its job is to provide mechanical support only. So, when a large difference in permeabilities exists among species, both high permeance and high selectivity can be achieved in asymmetric membranes. If Henry's laws applies, then S is constant at a given temperature, so is D. If permeability coefficient also defined as P equals to ds. So, D is the diffusion coefficient, that is a kinetic term governed by the amount of energy necessary for a particular penetrant to execute diffusive jump through the polymer, and the intrinsic degree of segmental packing in the matrix, and solubility coefficient S is a thermodynamic term. So, your D is a kinetic term, whereas S is a thermodynamic term that depends on factors such as condensability of the penetrant, interactions between the polymer and penetrant, and the amount of penetrant scale, non-equilibrium excess volume in glassy polymers. So, for a binary gas mixture penetrating through a polymer membrane, the selectivity of a polymer membrane towards 2 different penetrant gases, let us say A and B, can be commonly expressed in terms of the ideal selectivity of ideal perm selectivity. Downstream pressure considered negligible. So, alpha AB can be Pa by Pb, So, if you expand it, then we can include diffusivity and solubility. So, dA by dB into SA by SB, where dA by dB is the ratio of the concentration averaged diffusion coefficients, and SA by SB is the solubility ratio of solubility selectivity, solubility basically. So, high permeability and high selectivity are most important criteria in evaluating a membrane. The two more important quantities that dictate the performance of membrane devices are the flux and separation factor or selectivity. Now, if X is the mole fraction of A in the feed side and Y is that of in the permeate side for a binary mixture of A and B. So, let us assume that component A has higher permeability. The separation factor, then we can write alpha AB equals to x y by y minus y, x by 1 minus x, or we can write alpha x into 1 plus 1 minus alpha into x. So, the permeability coefficient of dense film material commonly expressed in terms of bearer. So, 1 bearer equals to 1 into 10 to the power minus 10 centimeter cube into STPCM, centimeter square polymer S centimeter Hg or mercury. So, such a unit was originally defined for convenience because of many polymer membranes had permeabilities around 1 bearer. So, let us now understand the different factors that actually affect the gas permeation. Let us discuss its temperature. So, gas diffusion coefficients are generally increased with increasing temperature, right, when the polymer does not undergo thermally induced morphological rearrangements such as crystallization above the temperature range of interest. So, both diffusivity and solubility coefficients are temperature dependent. The selectivity also sensitive to change in temperature. The increased segmental motion at higher temperature reduces the ability of polymer to discriminate between the penetrants of different physical dimensions, thereby resulting in a diffusivity selectivity loss. Next is pressure. So, large variation of permeability may occur with the change in pressure of permeate contacting with the polymer. A few typical patterns of response can be observed in permeability versus pressure relationships. For the permeation of an organic vapor into rubbery polymer, permeability increases linearly with increasing pressure. For low sorbing penetrants such as helium or nitrogen in rubbery or glassy polymers, diffusion and solution become independent of gas pressure. So, a decreasing trend of permeability with increasing pressure is typically observed with highly soluble gases such as carbon dioxide in glassy polymers. Then plasticization pressure. So, plasticization pressure is usually defined as the pressure at which an increase in permeance occurs. So, at such feed pressure, the gas concentration in the polymer material disrupts the chain packing. The polymer matrix swells and the segmental mobility of the polymer chain increases. This results in an increase in gas diffusivity and induces increase in permeability. The polymer is highly plasticized by the penetrant. The diffusion coefficient may become a function of time. Now, this non-ideal behavior is explained by the free volume theory. Free volume theory of diffusion suggests that molecules can only diffuse through free volume in a molecular matrix. So, this is what is the free volume theory. Then permeant condensability. So, in general, gas solubility in polymers increases with increasing gas condensability. So, condensability can be measured as the gas critical temperature or the normal boiling point. Diffusion coefficients of permeates are found to decrease with increasing size of permeates. So, diffusion coefficient in polymers are also sensitive to permeate shape. Shape also plays a very important role, right. So, a linear or oblong permeate molecules such as carbon dioxide exhibit high diffusivity than those of spherical molecular shape of equivalent molecular volume such as methane. Specific interactions between gas and polymer molecules also affect gas solubility. Gases such as carbon dioxide, which has a quadrupole moment, are generally more soluble in polar polymers. Polymer crystallinity. So, crystallinity in polymers tends to reduce both permeate solubility and diffusivity, thereby reducing permeability, which is usually undesirable, and polymer cross-linking reduces polymer segmental mobility. Therefore, diffusion coefficients of the penetrant gas typically decreases with an increase in the degree of cross-linking of the polymer. So, in lower molecular weight polymers, chains are more mobile and penetrant diffusivity decreases with increasing molecular weight. At higher molecular weights, when the concentration of chain ends is low, diffusivity is relatively independent of molecular weight as its solubility. Now, let us discuss few applications of gas separation. So, the first one is production of hydrogen. So, example is separation of hydrogen from nitrogen in ammonia purge gas stream. hydrogen methane separation in refinery of gases, and hydrogen carbon monoxide adjustment in oxochemical synthesis plants. So, hydrogen is a very small non condensable gas which is highly permeable compared to all other gases. This is the reason why hydrogen is separated using this gas separation technique. The glassy polymers are primarily used to make hydrogen selective membranes. Early hydrogen membrane gas separation plants used sulfone or cellulose acetate membranes, but now a variety of specifically synthesized material such as polyimides, polyaramide, brominated polysulfone, all these materials are being used. So, you can see this table tells us about the selectivity of various membranes. So, if you see for hydrogen carbon monoxide, the polyaramide membrane gives 100% selectivity, whereas the same membrane is giving more than 200% selectivity for hydrogen methane as well as hydrogen nitrogen separation. So, selectivity of polysulfone membrane is actually low for all these cases, whereas you can see for polyimides and cellulose acetate, they are fairly good for hydrogen methane as well as hydrogen nitrogen separation. This is an example of hydrogen recovery from ammonia reactor. Let us see how it is being done. So, during the production of ammonia from nitrogen and hydrogen, argon enters the high pressure ammonia reactor as an impurity with the nitrogen stream, and methane enters the reactor as an impurity with the hydrogen atom. So, what is happening here? So, with hydrogen, methane is entering, with nitrogen, argon is entering. Now, they are being pushed to some multi-stage compressors. Okay. So, the 3 is basically the stream 3 is high pressure permeate and 4 is low pressure permeate. Okay. So, you generate this pressure through different multi-stage compressors. So, ammonia is produced in the reactor, then it is fed to the ammonia reactor. So, ammonia is produced in the reactor, needs to be removed by condensation. Okay. So, you will get product ammonia here after the condensation. So, the argon and methane impurities accumulate until they represent as much as 15% of the gas in the reactor. Then to control the concentration of these components, the reactor must be continuously purged. So, when we are purging it, we are take it to a 2-stage membrane system, where 2 different gas separation membranes are used, and where you are purifying it in the first stage. So, you are getting the low pressure permeate here, okay, the low pressure permeate. In the second stage, you are getting the hydrogen rich permeate, that is a high pressure permeate, okay, and you are getting your all sorts of inerts like nitrogen, methane and argon, all you are getting in the permeate side from the second membrane stage, okay, and hydrogen rich permeate is being recirculated. So, this is how hydrogen is recovered from ammonia reactor. So, you are basically enriching hydrogen. The hydrogen lost with this purge gas can represent usually 2 to 4% of the total hydrogen consumed. These plants are very large. So, the recovery of hydrogen for recovery to the ammonia reactor is economically worthwhile. So, you can see this is a stream composition, membrane feed, membrane vent, high pressure permeate and low pressure permeate. So, this is actually, if you go back and see again. So, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3 and this is 4. Okay. So, you can see the composition how it is varying at different stages. Okay. So, you can get a fair idea that how hydrogen is getting enriched, okay, when the low pressure with the high pressure permeate as well as the low pressure permeate, okay, after passing through 2 membrane stages. So, the next example is production of nitrogen from air. So, the permeabilities and selectivities of some of the membrane materials that have been used for this gas separation is given below. There is a strong inverse relationship between flux and selectivity. Membranes with selectivity of 6 to 7 are found to be economical. So, you can see from here. Okay. So, you can go for a polyimide or polysulfur or polyaramide membranes to have a better flux as well as fair selectivity. So, the selectivity and permeability trade off is very apparent in the plot of selectivity as a function of oxygen permeability. You can see this is the selectivity of oxygen nitrogen, here it is oxygen permeability given in bearer. So, you can see this is for the glassy polymers, and whereas the rubbery polymers are represented here. Okay, you can see there is a trade off between these 2 different class of membrane materials, whether it is glassy and rubbery. So, the selectivity is better for the glassy materials and little low for the rubbery materials. And all oxygen selective membranes, even membranes with oxygen nitrogen selectivity as low as 2 can produce better than 99% nitrogen. So, albeit at very low recovery. Okay. Recovery will be low because of the low selectivity, but purity will be very high. So, this figure particularly, which you can see the nitrogen recovery versus product nitrogen concentration at different oxygen nitrogen membrane selectivity. As you can see, the selectivity increases, okay, here recovery increases. Oxygen nitrogen selectivity about 2, okay, you can see the almost you can get 99% pure also. However, the recovery is very less. Okay, you can see the recovery is less than 20%. So, you increase the selectivity, your purity as well as recovery both increases. Okay. So, now the next example, separation of natural gas. So, natural gas is usually produced from the well and transported to the gas processing plant. Natural gas contains methane, ethane, some propane and butane, and about 1 to 3% of other hydrocarbons. Raw natural gas varies substantially in composition from source to source. In addition, the gas contains undesirable impurities. So, they are water, carbon dioxide, nitrogen and hydrogen sulfide, provided what is the source of the natural gas actually. So, hydrogen sulfide presence varies. So, water is small and condensable and it is easily separated from methane by both rubbery and glass polymeric membranes. So, not an issue at all, and both rubbery and glassy membranes can separate carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide from natural gas. So, however, in practice carbon monoxide is best separated by glass membranes, whereas hydrogen sulfide, which is larger and more condensable than carbon dioxide, is best separated by rubbery membranes. Now, nitrogen can be separated from methane by glassy membrane. You can see this, this is glassy polymers and this is rubbery polymers. So, the glassy polymers separate, usually mechanism of separation is size separation or sieving mechanism, whereas in rubbery polymers it is the separation is happening by the condensability factor. Okay. The differentiation in condensability. So, nitrogen can also be separated by methane by glassy membranes, but the difference in size is very small. So, the separation which we will get or will achieved is very small. So, finally, propane and other hydrocarbons, because of their condensability, are best separated from methane with rubbery sorption and selection membranes. So, you can see this methane, sulfide, carbon dioxide, everything is being including this one here methane also will be removed using a rubbery polymer far better than using a glassy polymer. Okay. So, this table will gives an idea about the membrane materials and selectivities for separation of impurities from natural gas under normal operating conditions. If you use cellulose acetate polymembrane membrane, you may get around selectivities around 10 to 20, okay, and etheramide will give us 20 to 40, polyamide, so the selectivity is around 2 to 3, and there are many rubbery and glass materials are there. So, mostly you will get around more than 200 selectivity, and silicon rubber will also gives us a selectivity of 7 to 10. So, you can choose depending upon your applications. Now, let us quickly discuss a small model for the gas separation. So, this is called complete mixing model. Please note, please have a note on the different notations. So, the feed is a composition of A and B, and the feed flow rate is given by QF, mole fraction is XF, the pressure inside or upstream side is P1 and the mole fraction is X naught, pressure in the downstream side which is low is P2 and the mole fraction is Yp, the reject or retented this one flow rate is Q naught, which is 1 minus theta into QF, and permeate is Qp equals to theta into QF. So, Am is the membrane area and Lm is the thickness of the membrane. Okay. Thickness. So, Pa dash and Pb dash are permeabilities of A and B, and P1 is the higher pressure, P2 is the lower pressure. So, and mole fraction we have already discussed. So, Qp is the permeate flow rate, the flux of the components A and B through the membrane we can write is that in terms of the flux. So, Ja equals to Qp by Am into Yp, which is Pa dash by Lm into P1 X naught minus P2 Yp. So, similarly, we can write for Jb also the flux of B. So, Qp by Am. So, this is the flow rate by area into 1 minus the mole fraction of component B in permeate side. That can be expressed in terms of X naught and Yp. So, if you do J by Jb, so you will get this equation, and we can write in terms of mole fraction, we will get this equation. So, the separation factor is given by prime by Pb prime, which is alpha. To calculate the membrane area, it is required to construct material balance equation for complete mixing module. You can see what is Q naught actually here. So, Q naught is the reject flow rate and Qp is the permeate flow rate. So, equals to the reject flow rate and the permeate flow rate. So, we can define a term which is called stage cut or fraction, which is this theta, okay, is QP by QF. So, again we can write Q naught by QF equals to 1 minus theta. So, now making a component material balance for component for A. So, QF XF equals to Q naught X naught plus QP YP. So, you can write X naught like this from this particular equation and YP from this particular equation, something like this. So, you get the mole fractions basically. Okay. So, permeation rate of A at a steady state can be written as QP YP equals to flux into area. So, you can write QP YP equals to area is AM into flux is this. Okay. So, substituting QP equals to theta into QF. So, you can write membrane area is theta QF YP divided by PA dash by LM into P1 X naught minus P2 YP. Similarly, for component B also it can be found out. So, this is how you will find out the membrane area using this completely mixing model consideration. Now, let us see a small numerical based on this particular membrane. I am just reading out that text for the this one. So, for the problem, a membrane module for separation of a binary gas mixture with a partial recycle of permeate stream uses silicon polycarbonate copolymer membrane to separate 150 meter cube of air per hour to produce a permeate stream containing 30% oxygen. So, the stage cut, that is the theta, is given as 30% and 50% of the permeate is to be recycled to the feed stream. Permeability of nitrogen is given, and in the 1 into 10 power minus 5 centimeter thick dense layer of the membrane is 40 barad. So, here Lm is also given. The ideal separation factor is also given as 5, feed side pressure is 50 bar, and that on the permeate side pressure is 10 bar. So, you have been asked to calculate the membrane area. So, it is assumed that both feed and permeate sides are well mixed. Okay. So, let us now solve it. Okay. So, let us try to write down whatever it is being given. So, you know QF is given 150 meter cube per hour, then here YPA okay, is 0.3, here theta equals to 0.5, P1 equals to 50 bar, P2 by P1 equals to 0.2. So, if you take overall material balance, so you can write Q of feed equals to Q of this one, what is your reject or retentate. So, 1 minus this zeta into QP. Okay. So, where this zeta is fraction of permeate stream. So, component balance, so QF XAF equals to Q naught XA naught, then here A plus 1 minus this zeta into QP YPA. So, here theta, you know theta equals to QP divided by QP plus zeta QP, okay, or QP equals to, if you calculate QP, it is 0.3 into 150 divided by 1 minus 0.3 into 0.5, which is nothing but 52.94. So, P2 by P1 is also given. So, you can write Yp into 1 minus Yp. Okay. So, please substitute that equation. So, it is Pa from the model equation which we have just discussed, Pb okay, into x naught into minus P2 by P1 okay, and into Yp. So, this whole divided by 1 minus x naught minus P2 by P1 into 1 minus Yp. Okay. So, here alpha is given, separation factor is given as 5. So, please substitute here all the values and you will get x naught A equals to 0.101. So, permeability of oxygen that is Pa dash okay, is alpha Pb dash, okay, which is alpha is given as the separation factor is given as 0.5 and it is this is 40. So, it is 200 bearer. So, we can find out this Qp Yp equals to flux into area, or Am we can directly also write. So, it is theta Qp Yp divided by this one Pa dash by Lm, Lm is the membrane thickness, then P1 x naught minus P2 Yp. So, please substitute all these things and I think you will get this one. So, let me anyway write it. So, it is 53 into 10 power of minus 6 divided by 3600 hour to second conversion, okay, into 0.3 into 10 to the power of minus 5 whole divided by 200 into 10 to the power of minus 8, then it is 0.101, that is P1 x net, okay, and into 50 minus 0.3 into 5 divided by 76 divided by 1.013. Okay. So, anyway you substitute all these things, you will get 82.5 centimeter square. So, the membrane area which you will get is 82.5 centimeter square. So, this is how you can design and membrane for your gas separation or for a particular application using this complete mixing model, from where you can find out your area of the membrane that is required to achieve a given separation. So, with this I conclude today's lecture. So, mostly it is taken from Becker and a little from other books also. So, please refer and read. In case you have any query, do feel free to write to me at kmohanty@iitg.ac.in. In our next lecture, we will discuss about membrane distillation. This is a very interesting topic. So, we will discuss about the membrane distillation, its principle, how it happens, the mechanism, the mass transfer and different applications of membrane distillation. So, thank you very much.